All right, let's just jump right in. We've all been there, haven't we? You decide, that's it, I'm breaking this bad habit. You're all fired up, you're totally committed, and then, like, a week later, you're right back where you started. Ugh, it is so frustrating. It can feel like a total personal failure. But what if it's not about willpower at all? What if you've been using the wrong tools this whole time?
I mean, it sounds so simple, right? Just stop doing the thing. But man, is it hard. So hard. In fact, get this. Even when you're really trying to focus on something, like, say, this very explainer, about half of us are going to drift off into a daydream or get that sudden overwhelming urge to check our phones. So what's the deal? Why are our habits so sticky and our attention so all over the place?
Well, it turns out this isn't some new age problem, and it's definitely not a flaw in your character. Nope. When you try to just force a bad habit to stop, you're literally going head-to-head with a learning process that is baked into our nervous systems, one that's been around for millions of years of evolution. You're not just fighting a bad habit, you're fighting your own brain's survival wiring.
So to actually work with our brain instead of against it, we've got to understand this ancient system, and our modern world has totally hijacked it.
Okay, so it all boils down to this thing called reward-based learning. It's a really simple but super powerful system of reinforcement that helps us remember what's good for us and what's bad for us. At its heart, this whole process is about one thing and one thing only, keeping us alive.
Just picture our ancient ancestors, right? They're out foraging. They see some berries. Their brain goes, calories, survival. So they eat the food, it tastes good, and a little signal gets sent to the brain that says, hey, remember what you just ate and where you found it. Boom, a memory is formed. See food, eat food, feel good, and repeat.
That simple survival loop is crazy effective. Maybe a little too effective. Because our big, creative, modern brains figured out how to apply that exact same logic to things that have nothing to do with finding food, turning a survival tool into, well, a trap. And the engine driving that whole trap is what we call the habit loop. It's always got these three parts, every single time. First up, you've got a trigger. That's what kicks the whole thing off. Then comes the behavior. That's the habit itself. And finally, you get the reward. That little aha feeling that tells your brain, hey, remember that? Do it again. Trigger, behavior, reward. You got to remember those three.
So this is where things get interesting. Our brain says, you know what? This loop doesn't just work for being hungry. What if the next time you feel kind of down, you try eating something yummy? Maybe you'll feel better. And so we do. Suddenly, the trigger isn't a hunger pang from our stomach, it's an emotional signal, like feeling sad or stressed. The behavior is to grab some ice cream. And the reward? We feel a little bit better. Now the habit loop is tied directly to our emotions.
And this applies to literally everything. Maybe when you were a teenager, you saw the cool kids smoking. The trigger was wanting to fit in. The behavior? Smoking a cigarette. The reward? Feeling like you belonged. And every time you do it, that loop gets stronger and stronger. Until years later, the trigger is just feeling a little bit of stress, and the cigarette is the automatic go-to answer. We've taken a system designed to help us survive and turned it into something that can actually kill us.
Now, this is usually the point where we try to bring out the big guns. Willpower. Cognitive control. We try to think our way out of it. We tell ourselves, just don't do it, it's bad for you. But as we're about to see, that part of our brain is the first one to check out when the going gets tough.
So think of it like this. You've got two different systems running the show. There's the new brain, right? Your prefrontal cortex. That's the smart, logical part that understands we shouldn't smoke or eat that whole pint of ice cream. It's the voice of reason. But then you have the old brain. That's where the habit loop lives, and it runs on pure instinct. Now here's the crazy part, the real kicker. The second you get stressed or tired, guess which part of your brain just clocks out? Yep, the new brain goes offline. And guess who jumps in to take the wheel? The old, automatic, super reliable habit loop.
We can all feel this, right? It's why you're way more likely to snap at your partner when you're exhausted, even though you know it's not helpful at all. Your rational brain is offline, and your automatic habits are driving the car. In that moment, we just can't seem to help ourselves. And that is why just trying harder almost never works.
Okay, so if fighting our own brain is a losing battle, what on earth do we do? What if, instead of trying to force ourselves, we could actually hack into this ancient reward-based learning process, but with a really simple, counterintuitive twist? The answer, believe it or not, is to get curious.
I know, it sounds way too simple, but what if the next time you felt that urge to smoke, to eat, to check your phone, instead of fighting it or giving in, you just watched it. What if you got genuinely, really curious about what was happening in your body and mind in that exact moment? So, they actually tested this in a lab. They got a group of smokers, and these were people who had tried and failed to quit an average of 6 times. And they taught them mindfulness, but instead of telling them to force themselves to quit, they gave them this wild instruction. Go ahead and smoke. All we want you to do is be really, really curious about the experience when you do it.
And you know what happened? It was amazing. One of the smokers, she put it perfectly. She said, mindful smoking, it smells like stinky cheese and tastes like chemicals. Yuck. Now think about that. She knew smoking was bad for her. That's why she was there. But this was different. This wasn't just knowing it in her head anymore. This was a deep, gut-level wisdom. She felt how disgusting it was.
That right there, that's the moment of disenchantment. The reward just wasn't rewarding anymore. The magic spell of the habit was broken. And not by force, but just by paying attention. She wasn't fighting the urge anymore. She was just kind of over it.
And this isn't just some feel-good story. It has a real, measurable effect inside your brain. This whole process of getting curious actually starts to rewire that reward system we were talking about from the very beginning.
So how well does this stuff actually work? Oh, you bet it does. In that study, this mindfulness training was twice as effective as the gold standard therapy for quitting smoking. I mean, think about that for a second. Twice as good. All by switching from fighting to just being curious.
And we can literally see this happening in brain scans. There's a part of the brain called the posterior cingulate cortex, and it's part of a network that's all about me, me, me. It lights up like a Christmas tree when we get caught up in a craving, when we get sucked in. But the moment we step back and just get curious about what's happening, that same part of the brain just quiets down. You are literally changing your brain's response in real time.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. How can you take this idea and actually use it in your own life, like right now, to build a new, healthier habit loop?
Let's take a super common modern habit. You know that urge to check your phone whenever you're bored for even a second, or to reply to a text message the instant it comes in? The trigger is boredom, or that little ding. The behavior is checking the phone, and the reward is that little hit of distraction.
So here's the new loop we're going to build. It's simple. Step 1, just notice the urge when it pops up. That's it. Don't fight it, don't judge it, just see it. Step 2, get curious. What does that urge actually feel like in your body? Is it a tightness in your chest, a jittery feeling? Just watch it like a scientist observing an experiment. And step 3, feel the reward. Not the reward from the old habit, but the joy of letting go. The freedom of not being a puppet to that urge. That becomes your new, inherently awesome reward.
And every single time you do this, you weaken that old, crusty habit and you strengthen the new one. You basically become an inner scientist, just eagerly waiting for your next data point. So, the question for you is, what's one habit loop in your life, that urge to eat, to procrastinate, to worry, that you can stop fighting and instead just get really curious about today?